Ever since I can remember, I have been able to see things that others cannot. I still remember the days of my infancy when I would, for the first time, sleep in my own bed, in my own room, and how the shadows of unknown beings would haunt my room, or perhaps my head. All I know is that I saw things, and that, at least to me, these things were as real as the other things that other people were able to see and touch. I can still play in my memory the ominous events, how I pointlessly attempted to sleep as the door of my wardrobe opened slowly and always stopped just before I would be able to see what pushed it open. Although, it was already hard enough to see with one eye barely open, just to be aware in case that whatever hid behind the door decided to come out. As I grew older, I came closer in contact with these things, and I started to be able to sense them, feel them, and even smell them. The odor was not pleasant. It was a rotten smell, maybe even came close to like death itself. As time passed by and I got more used to these beings, my senses were more effective. I could see everything, sense everything, smell everything, and be able to differentiate what was one of these beings and what was something else shared with the rest of the people around me. However, as close as I came to these beings, I never could hear them. This made me feel so desperate. I knew they were there, but the missing note provoked me an immense fear. How was it possible that with everything these beings were able to do, they did not emit any sound? Seeing them, knowing they were there, but still unable to hear them? Soon enough, people noticed my constant state of, as they would call it, paranoia, and I was sent to a psychologist. I was not paranoid, I was simply cautious. I had to keep my senses always in full attention of what was around me. Maybe convert me into one of them? Maybe they were demons trying to drag my soul into the depths of hell. Maybe they were angels of death trying to steal my life away. I had refused to attend to that said psychologist, but I was dragged to his so-called office, which looked more like his own apartment. The visit was quick. He asked me all kinds of questions about my life and got me to talk about my personal life. I had told him everything about my past experiences with the strange beings that haunted me. Being 25 years old and having a long history of experiences like these, most accurately ever since I can remember, did not sound too well for the doctor, and I can remember did not sound too well for the doctor, as I was sent to a psychiatrist, whom, after the very first visit prescribed pills for me. He explained to me that the pills would help me get rid of these beings and would help me feel less stressed, and I would be able to maintain a more natural lifestyle. He did, however, warn me that these pills were not easily found, but that whenever I needed more, he could provide them to me. And he also mentioned that the effects would kick in slowly, and that the more I took, the faster they'd fade away. After a month of taking these pills, I could feel the difference. I felt more free, less scared, and the beings would stay away as long as I could take the pills. The pills made my life so much better. People around me would no longer call me insane or mention that I seemed paranoid. All in all, whatever these pills did to me, I knew that the things I had seen were real. And whenever they were there, when I took the pills, they were just waiting in the darkness of my ignorance, waiting in the silence they've always been in. But of course, everything has an ending. No matter what it is, everything ends eventually. One day, approximately 3 years after my treatment began, I ran out of pills. As usual, this wasn't a problem. All I had to do was go back to the doctor and ask for more. To my surprise, the doctor wasn't there anymore. He disappeared. An immense fear invaded me, and I felt more worried than I have ever felt in my entire life. Even when those things were around, then it hit me. Those things. Those fucking things took them. And then he provided me with the pills that kept them away from me. I knew the pills were not easy to find, as the doctor had already said, and those things knew it as well. I had to find my pills. Wherever and at any cost, I had to find more. Or those things would be back again. Otherwise, it might be sooner than later. The one thing that I felt before, like it was the worst thing about being able to know these things were always there, turned out to be torture with no compassion. After 2 months, I could start hearing them. They became louder and louder every night. They were screaming. When they did not scream, they whispered. When they didn't whisper, they would just simply talk to me, requesting me, demanding me to do horrible things. Out of all the things I could hear from them, the whisper, ironically, was louder and clearer than whenever they spoke or even screamed. They did not demand me anything when they whispered. They simply whispered 4 words that caused me a frightening chill that traveled from the core of my stomach, through my chest, and even to the tip of my fingers and to my head. "You cannot escape us," they whispered, over and over again. At night, these whispers rang through my head, freezing my blood and causing my tears to come out of my eyes as if they were waterfalls. After a few weeks of living like this, the screaming, demands, the whispers became more constant, every day and every night, haunting me and making those things around me fear for my well-being. Everything became so constant. All the demands of blood, the whisper that kept reminding me that I could not escape them, the screaming, and more recently the crazy laughter, as if they enjoyed my suffering and feed off my desperation. I thought back when those around me used to say I was just insane and that it was all in my head, and I realized that if it were true that all of this was just in my head, then it would be worth taking the risk. I ran to my kitchen, and the screaming and everything else became louder with every step. They all started to shout, to speak, to laugh, to whisper at the same time as I rapidly grabbed the knife I had left on the sink. All the noise stopped at once. It became quiet. Silence. The screaming and all that torture rapidly faded away as I could feel the warmth of the stinging yet relieving pain on my throat. The red spilled out of my throat, soaking my shirt in blood. I felt the ground, barely feeling the impact of the fall. I felt numb, and suddenly, I felt a freezing cold. As I lie here on the floor, feeling my life is slowly fading away, I can see and tell my life to you. You who have tortured me for so long, and that now, at the edge of my life, finally leave me at peace. You who I have been trying to get away from for so long, and even succeeded for a while. To you, I tell this. I did escape you, and although it cost me my life, I can say it was well worth it. Why even bother to live in my mere existence if it became total torture? Ever since I can remember, I have been able to see